All right, New Testament Survey of the Gospels 2, Lecture 15. Moving on through, we'll be done with the Harmony of the Gospels before winter starts. We're just going in the fall now, 2018. But probably another, what do you think, guys? 7 more times? We'll be done? 6 more times? How many lectures are there, online students? You think it's 24, 23? Probably right in there. So maybe 8 or 9 more times. Nonetheless, I like going through the Bible. No hurry for me. Excuse me. So we'll start reading here. Luke 18:35. And it came to pass that as he was come nigh unto Jericho, a certain blind man sat by the wayside begging. And hearing the multitude pass by, he asked what it meant. They told him that Jesus of Nazareth passed by. And he cried, saying, Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on me. And they which went before rebuked him, that he should hold his peace. But he cried so much the more, Thou son of David, have mercy on me. And Jesus stood and commanded him to be brought unto him. And when he was come near, he asked him, saying, What wilt thou that I should do unto thee? And he said, Lord, that I may receive my sight. And Jesus said unto him, Receive thy sight. Thy faith hath saved thee. And immediately he received his sight and followed him, glorifying God, and all the people, when they saw it, back it up. And all the people, when they saw it, gave praise unto God. This is not blind Bartimaeus. That's coming up shortly. There's a different fellow, a blind man. See anything in there that attracts your curiosity? Think was special? Anything you want to say real quick? Yeah, I like the question in verse 41 Jesus asked, had a sermon kind of like this, What wilt thou that I should do unto thee? What would you say? Now he's blind. Why did Jesus ask that? Didn't he know what his problem was? Well, he wants to hear it. So what do you want Jesus to do for you? Anyone here? Keep giving you pizza? Well, I would like to be, at least, have financial freedom. Not have a debt, not have to work so much. What wilt thou? And then, what did he do here? He said, receive thy sight. You might say, okay, receive your financial freedom. Maybe you have a health problem, like this man did, I guess. Maybe you have a relationship problem. Maybe you're in prison. Okay, immediately receive the sight. Should every sick person today cry out to Jesus for him to have mercy on them and to heal them? Well, if Jesus was walking by, you may want to. But Jesus is still available, right? Can you get healed if you ask Jesus to heal you? I've been healed before. I had some colds that were coming on and they just went away the next day. I assume that was because I prayed. It was different at that dispensation, of course. These healings and tongues, miracles, signs, wonders were used to confirm the word, and that these people, Jesus and his disciples, were legit. They were from God. Will Jesus Christ heal a lost person if they ask him to? This man was not saved, right? Verse 42 talks about that. This is where the charismatics, I believe, get off on these type of statements, where it looks like the healing of the body is congruent or at the same time with salvation. So their healing is salvation somehow, or it's put together with that, and I believe you need to separate those out. Because healing does not mean you got saved, or that you are saved, or that that's the time you got saved. It sure could be, though. This man got saved about the time he got healed. I actually think that he got saved just before he got healed, because he had the faith. First he had the faith that Jesus could do it. He came to him, and Jesus said, Thy faith hath saved thee. Not my healing hath saved you. Going on. So if they have faith that Jesus can heal them, That sounds, at least here, like that's enough faith in Jesus. I think he also, I would assume, had faith that he was the Savior, Messiah, the Son of God, and that he could do this miracle. Those disciples had cold hearts. What did they do in here? It kind of sounds that way, that they were cold.
They're rebuking of him.
Yeah, verse 39. Keep quiet. Don't bother the Master. Don't bother the Son of God. He's busy doing stuff. Quit whining. Quit hollering, blind man. We can get that way, not the same thing, but let's get irritated with people. They didn't want people crying out to Jesus and disturbing things as they walked along. Way to go, disciples. All right, someone help with Luke 19. Luke 19, someone read 1 through 5.
And Jesus entered and passed through Jericho, and behold, there was a man named Zacchaeus, which was the chief among the publicans, and he was rich. And he sought to see Jesus who he was, and could not for the press, because he was little of stature. And he ran before and climbed up into a sycamore tree to see him, for he was to pass that way. And when Jesus came to the place, he looked up and saw him, and said unto him, Zacchaeus, make haste and come down, for today I must abide at thy house.
Yes. And he made haste and came down and received him joyfully. And when they saw it, they all murmured, saying that he was gone to be guest with a man that is a sinner. And Zacchaeus stood and said unto the Lord, Behold, Lord, the half of my goods I give to the poor. And if I have taken anything from any man by false accusation, I restore him fourfold. And Jesus said unto him, This day is salvation come to this house, for so much as he also is the son of Abraham. For the Son of Man is come to seek and to save that which was lost. Familiar verse there. So Zacchaeus here, interesting. I say, what do you make of his psychological state? What kind of a person is he? Don't read the notes, look up. What do you think about Zacchaeus just as a person, a prospect? What was his deal? What did he do there?
Well, he was apparently a midget, and he was, I guess, the top manager of the publicans,
Okay.
which were tax collectors.
Yeah.
So
Very
Yeah,
important person, but he was short.
and he had a lot of influence.
He was so much wanting to see this Jesus, he was curious about him, that he climbed up into it says here, a sycamore tree, so he could see him. And Jesus, this is the most important thing, he, of course, knows all things, but we can argue about his limitations that he allowed himself to have in the human flesh, but he noticed Zacchaeus. The Spirit told him to focus on Zacchaeus and talk to him, and he did. Zacchaeus was a sinner, lost man. Did he get saved? It doesn't say. I wrote here, he's, a rich man, he could be overconfident. Maybe had an inferiority complex, being short, unpopular. You just kind of think about these people that you meet. You think about that. You can think about their psychological status, personality, just who they are, as you're talking to them. People you know at work, you meet it in the store, door to door, whatever happens, and just think about them. This man had a certain situation. God put it in there, a certain way. So we could think. What do you make of the spiritual activity going on in Zacchaeus at this time? Do you think he was interested in salvation? Doesn't say that he was. He certainly was interested in Jesus. I mean, you think about important people climbing up into a tree. If there's some folks and other people walking by and they want to see him, a person climbing up into a tree. I mean, a kid might, but an adult, and they were in robes, it's pretty obvious, but I think it was pretty busy, and he wanted to see. I mean, people were pushing, and he was very interested in, I believe his heart was right. And I believe he did get saved, but it doesn't say it. In red text it says, he didn't care about what people thought. He wanted to see Jesus. And his heart was ripe for salvation. Jesus Christ recognized this and spotted him out of the whole crowd there. That's what we need to do also, is to be used by the Spirit of God to find people that are really searching for Jesus, to find out more about Jesus Christ. There's people in the crowd who are right. Jesus invited himself to a sinner's house to eat. That was interesting. Hey, I'm going to come over to your house tonight and eat. That's forward. What do you think about that? Black text, some of the people saw it and they murmured. Why were they murmuring? Verse 7. Not that he asked him, but this man is a sinner. So their view of sinner's house, isn't everyone a sinner? But aren't certain people known more for being a sinner, like today?
Well, they didn't like the tax collectors. They tend to be dishonest. And
there you go. Yeah. They're known to be dishonest. Yeah. I think that's the key thing there. And so there's some folks in ours, let's move it up to today, because tax collectors, what do you think about IRS agents? You know anybody like that? No. But can you think of a group of a certain type of person that you would say, now that's a sinner? What are you doing hanging around with that person? Help me out. I paid for you all to be here. I hired you all as my advisors. Can you think of a type of person? They're eating, they can't speak. I'll speak for them. Well, how about a drug addict? Or
politician.
Politicians, they're all good.
Really not.
Politician, okay. Politician. Many of them will think they're crooked. Sure. What other type of people? Well, let's move on since we're not thinking too well. I'm not, at least. Jesus, as well as we, he was called to the lost sinners. That's who he's supposed to go reach. He needed to go where they were, to tell them of a Savior. Thus, it is good to go where the sinners are. Now, you might want to add a disclaimer on there, a little note of caution. So, we as Christians should go where sinners are. Where are sinners at?
Everywhere.
Yeah, they're everywhere. What's some places that they're notorious for being at?
Bars.
Bars. Okay, there you go. Bars. So we should go to bars. Because that's where sinners are. Well, yeah, you can. You better have your ducks in a row, prayed up, have some people with you, and you may get thrown out of there. So, but the point is, we're supposed to be around sinners. And some self-righteous so-called Christians might look at you and go, what are you doing hanging around those people? Right? Right. That was red text. Now black text. Zacchaeus was responding how most lost religious people respond when confronted with this deal about going to heaven. I'm a pretty good person. Does he talk about that there? Oh yeah. Verse 8. So he knows about Jesus and some things he said. He said, half of my goods I give given to the poor. Pretty good person. I try and help the poor. I don't steal. I haven't murdered anybody. I give to charities. I help out with the school. I volunteer for the school. They come up with these things, and I guess it's justifying it. To who? Who's he justifying it really to? It's not to God. He's trying to make the people that are listening to him say, yeah, you're right. You're a pretty good person. You're going to heaven. It was okay that he was saying this, for Jesus knew that his heart was ready and that he had the faith. As he did say, this day is salvation come to this house. And that could be meaning what? That they're all going to get saved. At least that was the intent. For sure. Jesus coming to your house, talk about salvation. What's the intent? The goal is everyone gets saved. So we have to assume that at least could have happened. All right. Good job. All right, let's move on. Now this is a little section. Now what I have here is what's called a running commentary. So in expository teaching and preaching, you can just kind of add stuff on in as you go. Now, this is a parable, I believe, and so I've added some thoughts on what it maybe is referring to. So I'll need to read this for the most part, so just relax and follow along. We'll have some spots where we'll just stop and comment, okay? You can help. Think about these things. I mean, it's 11 through 28, so it's a little bit of territory here. So let's do this, and then we'll take a break soon. Somewhere in here we will. Verse 11, and as they heard these things, he added and spake, a parable. There, it says it. Because he was nigh to Jerusalem, and because they thought that the kingdom of God should immediately appear. So keep that in mind. The New Jerusalem, at the heart of the kingdom, where the kingdom would be, and the people are thinking, it's going to appear, this kingdom. That's a miracle out of heaven. Jesus was going to set up the kingdom. He said, therefore, a certain nobleman, so who's this referring to? Might be Jesus. That's a parable. A certain nobleman went into a far country, which could mean he left heaven, went far, far, far away to earth, to receive for himself a kingdom. The kingdom is going to be on earth. Did you know that? For eternity, the kingdom is going to be associated with earth, or the new earth. For himself a kingdom. This is a spiritual kingdom, especially right now. It was bought, you could say, with his death on the cross. That's how he was allowed to have it. And to return, so went to a far country to receive for himself a kingdom, and then to return sometime after his resurrection, 40 days later, he returned back. And he called his 10 servants. 10 servants. Why did he say 10? I don't know. Who are the servants? So when he came to earth, who's he calling? I would say those disciples, those beginning church members. Could it be all saints? He's calling everyone? Well, it does matter here, because look what it goes on. Because there's going to be, with a parable, you've got an earthly story. The main point is going to be not to tell you about what goes on earth. It's going to be to teach you about a heavenly or spiritual principle or truth. So we got to get this down. And it's not that easy. And delivered them, so each of these guys got, let's back it up. He delivered them 10 pounds. Now the pounds was what? Is that weight? What is a pound?
Coin.
Huh?
A coin.
Okay, so what does that deal with?
Money.
Money. So he gives them money. What is that? Is that teaching? Should we directly relate that to money for Christians today? Well, you could do that, but remember this is a parable, so maybe it's dealing not just with money, maybe it's something like that. Spiritual gifts could be it. At salvation you're given a spiritual gift or many gifts. And he said unto them, red text here, occupy till I come. Occupy, that means be busy. Doesn't mean take over the world, it means be busy. Be busy using your gifts, or if you think it's money, your gifts for building the kingdom. Are you busy doing that? That's what this story is part in teaching, I think. Black text, but his citizens, okay, so you got servants, right? Servants. Now you've got citizens. These are two different groups. Could be the Jews. I think it is the Jews. Some say it might be the lost. It's good to think outside your box, right? What else could it be? What do some other people say it is? But his citizens hated him. Now the Jews hated Jesus. And sent a message after him saying, we will not have this man to reign over us. Remember when they said, release Barabbas unto us? Crucify Jesus? And it came to pass when he was returned, so he came back again. So he went up back to home, to his father, then comes back again. That would be the rapture or the second coming, having received the kingdom. So this is at the end. This is the day of the Lord. So you can say this could be at the rapture. I think it's more the second coming. But anyways, we won't argue that right now. So receive the kingdom. Then he commanded these servants. The servants, who are they? That sounds like saved folks. Sounds like it could be the church members, or at least, or you can say all the saved, which would fit with this, to be called unto him. And he gave them, spiritual gifts. Did he just give church members spiritual gifts, or did he give all the saved spiritual gifts?
Servants.
He gave his servants. And so if you say that's just church members, then you're going to be saying, well, then I guess the non-church members that are saved don't get spiritual gifts. Yeah, they all get them. So it's probably all the saved here. And the judgment seat of Christ fits. That's where he's going to judge each one of you that are saved on what you did for him, especially dealing with the spiritual gifts he gave you. That's going to be the focus. What did you do for me with what I gave you? At least that's what this is teaching. I gave you 10 pounds. I gave you 10 spiritual gifts, which he could have given you, or 9, or 8, or 7, and I maxed them out on some of them, the levels you can get. What did you do with it? Let's go on. To whom he had given the money. So that's the money. So we know it's money, sister. You're right, Stephanie. It's money, the pounds. That he might know how much every man had gained. So there's a gaining involved, not with money. So if you take this literally and miss the correct application, it's the prosperity gospel. God really wants you to make money and gain money. If he gives you money, you go gain money on that. You can use this to try and support that. But increase is the key thing. Here you're going to gain from what he's given you. That's what he gives you the thing for anyways. And here, excuse me, back up. That he might know how much every man had gained by trading, using gifts. Using your gifts. That's what I assume. The trading part is a little interesting. Trading money. That's kind of bartered back then. So be careful on parables. Not, in my view, not every part has to fit into the spiritual truth. 16. Then came the first, saying, Lord, he got a pound. So one, let's just say he got $1,000, whatever it was. Thy pound hath gained 10 pounds, or $10,000. That's pretty good. That's a tenfold increase. No, that's not a tenfold. That's we'll say a tenfold increase. Makes it easier. And he said unto him, Well, thou good servant, because thou hast been faithful in a very little. Very little? He had, back it up, sorry. He was given 1 pound, so that's very little. So God gives you very little, relatively to what he's going to give you back. I'm going to give you, have authority over 10 cities. I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself there. So he gives you 1, you make 10 back. He's going to give you a lot. Compare $10,000 with being in charge of over 10 cities. That's huge. 10 cities is way better than $10,000 or whatever it might be. I don't know, but I believe that what you do for Jesus, he's going to reward you tenfold, thousandfold, a billionfold for what you've done. Talk about a good return on your investment. And I wrote here, rewards for the millennium might be dealing with ruling over cities. So that's something to think about. Now I may be taking that too directly, but people are going to rule and reign with Jesus someday. We know that. Who will those people be? Where will they be ruling and reigning? I don't think up in heaven somewhere. It's going to be on earth. The millennium is very clear that that's going to be happening with some people at least. Yeah, Brother Joe, just curious, in your accounts there, do they have multiple passages on this?
No, not.
No,
not
is this all Luke?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I was just wondering, because I see nothing from other passages, I'm thinking, I thought there were some, but okay, just curious. I didn't check that last night when I was doing this.
No, none.
Okay. Alright, so something to think about. I don't mind going slow on this because this is a difficult parable, but there's a lot of truth in it. So think about this, someday you ruling over a city or 10 cities. Ruling, what would I do? I don't know how that all works. But you know how it would be today being in charge of a city. Yeah, it would be too much stress and pressure. You're going to be immortalized. God's going to give you the wisdom that you need for that. And you're going to learn as you go too, but you're going to be in charge or in the leadership of that. I really don't understand it, except there's going to be this hierarchy on earth. Jesus will be at the top. King David and the 12 over each tribe, for Israel, but then there's everything else. But going on, red text again. If a Christian is faithful just over a few things, God will make him ruler over many things. A little bit of faithfulness, yeah, that's good news, goes a long way with God. He doesn't have to do it that way. He can say, I demand you to be not a little faithful, totally faithful, and you get nothing for it. Because he could do that. Because I've done everything for you. I saved your soul from hell. But God owns everything. It's no problem for him to give you lots. 18, and the second came, saying, Lord, thy pound hath gained 5 pounds. So, back it up. What did the first say? Thy pound hath gained 10 pounds. This guy now is, his pound that he got, gained 5 pounds. Well, not as impressive, but still 5. Let's see what it says. And he said likewise to him, Be thou also over 5 cities. So you can see the proportionality here. Maybe that's what it's teaching, some relative. So you do a medium amount of fruit. You produce a medium amount of fruit, you get a medium amount of reward, but definitely worth way more than what you put into it. It's hard to say that, sorry. He said, 20. And another came saying, Lord, behold, here is thy pound, which I have kept laid up in the napkin. This is the hardest part of this parable now. We're getting to the real tough one. You'll see. Which I have kept laid up in a napkin. So he didn't use it. Napkin is kind of like stored away. For I feared thee. I just wanted to at least keep it, so I didn't lose that. For I feared thee, because thou art an austere man. Thou takest up that thou layest not down, and reapest that thou didst not sow. And he saith unto him, Out of thine own mouth will I judge thee. Now, this could be at the judgment seat of Christ. This is what I think it is. So far, this is how I see it going. So this is a saved man. Best I can tell. This is the tricky part. Whether he's lost or saved. That's what it's going to get down to on this third person. Out of thine own mouth will I judge thee, thou wicked. So he says wicked, so you're thinking maybe a lost person, right? But then he says servant. Remember, you have the citizens. Those were the Jews, probably. That I think at the end you'll see what happens with them. Thou knewest that I was an austere man, taking up that I laid not down, and reaping that I did not sow. So God, red text, God expects a lot of fruit from the gifts he gives us. Austere man. 23. Since we got a little bit here, someone read, if you don't mind, 23 and 24, and I'll stop you halfway through 24.
Wherefore then gavest not thou my money to the bank, and at my coming I might have required mine own with usury? And he said unto them that stood by, Take from him the pound, and give it to him that hath 10 pounds.
Okay. Interesting right there. That's another interesting thing to try and apply. What? To the spiritual? To us? It might be that slothful Christians, if this is all talking about Christians here, will have their unearned rewards, these rewards that they could have gotten if they did something with what God gave them. God has all these rewards. Well, I got them. We're not going to give them to him, so give it to the guy who did the best. Out of that group, at least. Take from him that hath the pound and give him, take from him the pound and give it to him that hath 10 pounds. I don't believe anyone loses an already earned reward, though. But you have to earn it. 25, and this is, look what they say. They said unto him, Lord, he hath 10 pounds. Why did they say that?
What he had was enough already?
Yeah. He's already got 10 pounds. He's got a lot. Well, someone read the next sentence.
25 or 26?
26.
For I say unto you, that unto everyone which hath shall be given, and from him that hath not, even that he hath shall be taken away from him.
Yeah, that's a deep statement there. So you just go, oh yeah, I kind of understand the principle. Okay, I can understand the principle. Let's try and apply that to reality, or the future reality with rewards. Because that's what I totally believe this is talking about rewards. Not making it or not making it to heaven. It's rewards for his children. is kind of like a logarithmic increase. So those that do really well for the Lord will increase all the more, because there's these folks that don't do hardly anything and lose all these rewards that they could have had, that God had. Let's just say he's got 1 trillion rewards. I don't know how it works, but 1 trillion. I don't think he keeps creating them as we go. He's got them, he's going to hand them out. That person could have had all these. They were lined up for him, ready to give, and he didn't do what God said as a saved person. So he's going to take those and give it to this other group. Maybe he spreads it out also into the middle group. I don't know. But the top group is going to really increase a lot. From their loss, it's going to be their gain. But those mine enemies. Okay, now look at this part, verse 27. But those mine enemies. So what happened, at least in this passage right here, I thought this, isn't this the same as the talent one? This is, that's what I was wondering if you had it in your in the book there. We started talking about the talents. I did not look this up, but you also have the parable of the talents.
Yeah,
right?
it's the same context, yeah.
It seems it's the same. So, so online students, I may have not combined these, but I was just going by the information I had 7 years ago when I did this. Something to look up. Maybe they're two different stories. I'm sorry I can't tell you that right now.
Well, in verse 27, he gives a description of mine enemies in that they are those which would not that I should reign over them.
Right. No, yeah, I see that there. I'm thinking of the parable with the talents. Sounds very much like this, and they give some more information in that, wherever that is in the Bible. I'm sorry, I'm just not prepared right now to, I guess we could put it on pause, but I don't want to stop it. So let's just go with this, and then we can add to it as we need to. But just be aware of that, online students, you folks here. There's a parable of the talents. Those mine enemies which would not that I should reign over them, bring hither and what? Slay them before me. So this is interesting. Who are these? You can just say, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, so what? Well, who are these people? This, I believe, is a group of people in the future that God is going to slay. It's these citizens, which could very well be the Jews. Verse 14. They hated him. Who hates Jesus? Well, back then, you can say the Jews do, or did. And do they still today? And then maybe this is referring to all the lost. Because at the end, you're either going to be loving Jesus or hating him. Those folks at the very end, because of how polarizing it is. This is probably the throwing into hell at the end of the tribulation of the lost. Or it's, I shouldn't say probably, it's probably more likely the great white throne judgment. But we can argue that out. And when he had thus spoken, he went before ascending up to Jerusalem. Okay, so online students and folks here, you can take this and have different viewpoints of it. It's okay. But have a viewpoint. Think about it. Don't just go, well, I don't understand that. Who knows? Think about it. Have a working diagnosis, as we say in medicine. Say, well, if I had to guess, this is what I think it's saying, but I got to be careful because I'm guessing. It's not obvious. So I'm trying to be careful too, but the more I've studied it over the years, the more I think it's teaching some key things. And I've basically covered what I thought. All right, so we have some commentary coming up in a little bit, but it'll be, that's over this next section. The commentary for this is all built in. And we need to, on the break here, we're going to look up the talent parable. All right, let's take a break. If someone could wake up and smell the coffee, I'll get it. Too far for you to go.